Attention, the sound echoed through the crystalline amphitheater of the Galactic Military Academy. Senior Commander Vex Thorax's 4 tentacles rippled with authority as he glided to the center platform. His iridescent scales caught the pale blue light, creating dancing patterns on the curved walls. Today's lecture might save your life, or more importantly, he paused, letting his compound eyes scan the gathered cadets. It might save your entire battle fleet. A nervous chitter ran through the audience. 300 of the galaxy's most promising military minds shifted in their anti-gravity seats. The room's temperature regulation system struggled to keep up with their collective anxiety. Project File 2749. Display. The air shimmered as a holographic image materialized a small blue planet, third from its unremarkable yellow star, Earth. The word hung in the air like a plasma charge about to detonate. Several cadets instinctively reached for their comfort glands. 5 cycles ago, we lost the 7th Armada trying to establish a foothold on this. Thorax waved dismissively at the hologram, barely civilized world. 3 cycles ago, we lost the 12th. Last cycle, his voice dropped to a whisper that somehow filled the entire hall. We lost High Admiral Kraz Thul herself. Thorax's secondary breathing bladder expanded slowly. You've all seen the propaganda. The smooth-skinned bipeds who call themselves humans are barely out of their gravity well. Their technology is centuries behind ours. Their weapons are primitive. Their ships are practically held together with adhesive compounds and hope. The hologram shifted, showing footage from the Battle of Luna Base. A human vessel, its hull breached in 17 places, rammed straight through a galactic destroyer. Both ships erupted in a fireball that lit up the moon's surface. So why do we keep losing? A brave cadet near the front raised an appendage. Superior numbers, sir. Wrong. Thorax's scales flickered red. We outnumbered them 12-1 in every engagement. Another cadet spoke up. Better tactical positioning. Wrong again. The commander's voice carried a hint of amusement. We controlled the high ground, the supply lines, and the jump points. By every tactical analysis in our 1,000-year history of warfare, we should have crushed them. He glided closer to the front row, his shadow looming over the increasingly uncomfortable cadets. Today we're going to study something our analysts initially dismissed. Something so fundamentally alien to our species that we failed to recognize it as the deadly weapon it truly is. The hologram changed one final time, displaying a human brain scan. Certain areas pulsed with an angry red glow. We're going to study human psychology, specifically Thorax's mouth parts curved into what passed for a smile in his species. We're going to study why humans are the only known species in the galaxy who become more effective warriors when they're terrified. The holographic display shifted to a tactical overlay of Earth's solar system. Commander Thorax's scales rippled with remembered pain. First contact followed standard invasion protocols. Admiral Paz Null, may her essence float eternal in the void, led our most experienced invasion force. 1,000 ships, 12 million warriors, the most advanced weapons in 17 sectors. A soft warning chime indicated that several cadets' stress levels were approaching unsafe levels. Thorax reduced the room's emotional resonance field by 30%. The humans had exactly 27 orbital defense platforms. Their fleet consisted of 300 ships, most of which couldn't even achieve FTL travel. Our analysts predicted total victory within 6 standard hours. The hologram showed the initial assault. Galactic ships, gleaming with perfect geometric precision, approached Earth in textbook formation. The human vessels scattered like startled prey animals. Several cadets chittered in amusement. Yes, laugh. We all laughed too. Thorax's voice carried the weight of bitter experience. Then this happened. The scattered human ships suddenly reversed course. Not in formation, not with any discernible pattern. Each ship picked a target and accelerated to maximum velocity. The tactical display bloomed with radiation warnings. They overloaded their reactor cores, turned their own ships into crude fusion bombs, lost 40% of our forward fleet in the first 10 minutes. But that wasn't the worst part. The display zoomed in on a human vessel, its hull practically disintegrating as it pushed far beyond safety tolerances. The pilot's life signs were clearly visible: accelerated heart rate, massive adrenaline spike, brain activity off the charts. They were laughing. Thorax's secondary hearts skipped a beat at the memory. We intercepted their communications. As they rode their ships to certain death, they were making jokes, trading what they called one-liners. One human actually sang something called Country Roads as he crashed into our flagship. The cadet in the back raised all four appendages. But sir, that's insane. No rational species would. Exactly, Thorax cut him off. No rational species would. That's what we failed to understand. Humans don't become less effective when faced with certain death. They become more dangerous, more unpredictable, more. He paused, searching for the right word: creative. The display showed the aftermath. The once perfect galactic formation was in chaos. Human ships, the few that remained, were picking off stragglers with desperate, impossible maneuvers that violated half a dozen basic laws of combat tactics. When we finally retreated, do you know what they did? They threw a party, a celebration. They lost nearly their entire fleet, and they celebrated because we lost more. Thorax's scales shifted to a deep purple of bewilderment. That's when we realized we weren't just fighting their weapons. We were fighting something far more dangerous: the human capacity to turn fear into fury, and fury into victory. Project Ekko was born in the shadows of our greatest military defeat. Commander Thorax continued, pulling up classified footage. We assembled the finest xenobiologists, combat psychologists, and battlefield analysts in secret bunkers beneath the moons of Jupiter. The hologram showed human soldiers in various combat scenarios. A lone human female holding off dozens of galactic troops with improvised explosives. A trapped squad turning their environment suits into makeshift rocket packs. A wounded soldier using his own severed arm as a distraction device. Watch their biosignatures. Thorax highlighted the scrolling data. Normal human baseline, then threat detection. Then the readings spiked dramatically. The adrenaline surge. A chemical cocktail that should incapacitate any rational being. Instead, it makes them stronger, faster, almost immune to pain. The display split into multiple feeds, each showing similar patterns. Humans pushed beyond their physical limits, achieving what should have been impossible. A mining engineer converting an entire asteroid into a kinetic weapon. A ship's cook defending their vessel with kitchen knives against powered combat armor. But here's what truly terrified our research team. Thorax's voice dropped to a near whisper. They can control it, channel it. The more desperate the situation, the more focused they become. Where our warriors see certain death, humans see, in their own words, options. The footage showed a particularly brutal battle where a human soldier, cornered by elite galactic forces, used their own fear as a weapon. The bioscan readings were off the charts, yet their aim improved, their tactical decisions became sharper. We tried to replicate it, of course. Synthetic adrenaline, neural implants, genetic modification. Nothing worked. Because we finally understood it's not just the chemical. It's their entire psychological makeup. Millions of years of evolution as both predator and prey. Creating a species that turns mortal terror into tactical advantage. Thorax closed the display with a gesture. That's when we knew we had to change our entire approach to human warfare. Because how do you defeat an enemy that becomes more dangerous the closer you get to victory? The Phoenix Base incident changed everything we thought we knew about human combat psychology. Thorax announced, activating a new holographic sequence. The crystalline walls of the lecture hall darkened, immersing the cadets in a full tactical display of a remote mining outpost on Mars. 47 human survivors. 3,000 of our finest troops. Standard containment protocol. The commander's scales flickered with remembered frustration. The humans were trapped in a reinforced bunker with failing life support. No weapons heavier than personal sidearms, no chance of rescue. Victory was mathematically certain. The display showed the galactic forces taking position around the bunker. Perfect encirclement, multiple redundancies, overlapping fields of fire. Several cadets nodded appreciatively at the textbook deployment. Watch their biosignatures carefully. Thorax highlighted the human life signs. Notice how their heart rates spike when they realize they're surrounded, but instead of the expected stress paralysis. He paused, letting the data speak for itself. The readings showed something that made several cadets' comfort glands work overtime. The humans' neural patterns weren't showing fear response. They were showing predatory activation. They called it Plan Omega. We thought they were surrendering when they opened the maintenance tunnels. Instead, Thorax's voice carried a note of grudging admiration. They had intentionally ruptured their reactor core, flooded the tunnels with radiation. Then they put on their damaged pressure suits, injected themselves with radiation meds that should have killed them instantly, and the tactical display erupted in chaos. 47 humans, their vital signs screaming with impossible readings, burst from multiple access points simultaneously. They moved like living nightmares, their radiation-flooded bodies setting off every proximity sensor in the galactic lines. The radiation disrupted our targeting systems, made our troops hesitate, but the humans? They had already accepted death, already pushed past that barrier. They weren't trying to survive anymore, they were trying to take as many of us with them as possible. The footage showed humans fighting with terrifying efficiency, using their own contaminated blood as weapon, triggering their suit reactors as improvised bombs, fighting on even as their bodies began to fail. This brings us to a crucial concept in human psychology. Fight or flight. Thorax brought up a comparison chart. Every species we know chooses one or the other. Predators fight, prey flees. Humans. His scales rippled in disbelief. Humans do both. Simultaneously, they retreat strategically while inflicting maximum damage. They turn flight into a weapon, and when truly cornered. The display showed the final moments of the battle. The surviving humans, barely in double digits now, had forced their way into the Galactic Command Center. The footage ended with a human officer, skin burning from radiation, grinning directly into the security camera before detonating their final surprise. We lost 800 troops in the first assault. Another 1,000 to radiation poisoning. The remainder. Thorax's voice hardened. The remainder requested immediate transfer to non-human combat units. These were veteran warriors who had fought in the Crucible Wars, and they refused to ever face humans in combat again. Most species' performance drops sharply under extreme stress. Thorax displayed a neural comparison chart. The Zentari go catatonic. The MRRG swarm mindlessly. The Voth simply shut down. But humans, he highlighted a drastically different pattern. They enter what our researchers call hyper-adaptable survival state. The hologram showed side-by-side comparisons of various species encountering lethal threats. Each reacted according to rigid evolutionary programming, except the humans. Look at this battle footage from New Tehran. Thorax pointed to a human soldier who'd been separated from their unit. Watch their response pattern. First, tactical assessment, then resource inventory. Finally, the human proceeded to turn their broken weapon into a spear, their helmet into a bomb, and their belt into a garrote. Creative problem-solving under impossible pressure. The cadets watched in stunned silence as the lone human eliminated an entire Galactic Special Forces team using nothing but improvised weapons and their environment. We thought we understood the cornered animal phenomenon. Every species fights harder when trapped. But humans. Thorax's scales shifted to a deep crimson. They don't just fight harder, they fight smarter, more brutally, more efficiently. New data streams appeared, showing human stress hormone levels during combat. Notice these patterns. When we corner most species, their cognitive function decreases. Humans experience what they call clarity of focus. Their problem-solving abilities actually improve. The display showed a particularly haunting scene: a human medic, trapped in a collapsed building, performing surgery on themselves while simultaneously coordinating their unit's counterattack. They call it grace under pressure. The more we push them, the more dangerous they become. And they remember, they learn, they adapt. Each survivor becomes a more efficient killer, passing on their knowledge, their techniques, their... Thorax searched for the word, their tricks. The commander's final slide showed the galactic military's new classification for human combatants: exponential threat assets. Because that's what humans are, threats that grow stronger with each attempt to eliminate them. Project Mirror was our greatest failure. Thorax's voice carried a mix of shame and fascination. 5 years, 300 billion credits, and our finest genetic engineers, all trying to replicate the human combat response. The hologram showed a massive research facility beneath Europa's ice. Rows of test subjects, modified with human genetic material, waited in suspended animation. We thought we could isolate the genes responsible for their unique stress response, copy their adrenal system, even clone their neural pathways. Thorax brought up the test footage. The results were catastrophic. The display showed modified galactic warriors in combat simulations. Their enhanced bodies tore themselves apart. Their minds fractured under the strain of artificial adrenaline. Some simply exploded from the metabolic overload. You see, we made a fundamental error. We thought human combat efficiency was purely biological, but it's their emotions that make them lethal. Thorax played intercepted human communications from various battles, laughter in firefights, jokes during orbital drops, songs in the face of certain death. They feel everything. Anger, fear, love, hatred, joy, and somehow they channel all of it into combat effectiveness. When a human fights to protect their companions, their strength nearly doubles. When they seek revenge, their pain tolerance becomes almost limitless. The commander showed brain scans of human soldiers in different emotional states. Look at these patterns. A human fighting for credits performs at baseline. The same human fighting for their family? Off the charts. We tried to replicate this with behavioral conditioning. Drugs, neural implants, nothing worked. The hologram shifted to footage of a particularly disturbing failed experiment. A genetically enhanced galactic warrior, injected with synthetic human hormones, faced off against a standard human soldier. The enhanced warrior was stronger, faster, more durable, perfect in every measurable way. Thorax let the footage play. The human still won. Because while our warrior was trying to execute perfect combat protocols, the human was fighting for their squad mates, for their home, for abstract concepts like freedom and honor. Thorax's scales darkened to a deep blue of professional mourning. We had created the perfect weapon, but we couldn't replicate the perfect motivation. The human capacity to transform emotion into lethal efficiency remains beyond our grasp. Our current military doctrine regarding humans can be summed up in 3 words. Thorax's scales pulsed with grim determination. Never corner them. The hologram displayed the new Galactic Defense Force Manual, Section H Human Engagement Protocols. All troops now undergo mandatory human psychology training. First rule, maintain maximum engagement distance. Second rule, never let them get creative. Third rule, if they start laughing during combat, retreat immediately. Thorax brought up combat statistics from recent encounters. Our casualty rates have dropped 60% since implementing these protocols. The key is understanding that humans don't think like warriors, they think like survivors. And survivors are infinitely more dangerous than soldiers. The display showed new training simulations. Galactic troops practicing disengagement protocols, learning to recognize signs of human tactical adaptation, studying ways to prevent humans from accessing materials they could turn into weapons. Strategic Command now classifies any human military asset as a potential planet killer, not because of their technology, but because of their psychological makeup. Give a human a screwdriver and bad odds, and they'll find a way to bring down a battlecruiser. A final hologram appeared showing the official threat assessment matrix. Humans were classified alongside natural disasters and solar flares. Remember this, cadets, the most dangerous human isn't the one with the biggest gun. It's the one smiling at you with empty hands, because that's the one who's already figured out how to kill you with your own weapons. So here we stand. Commander Thorax's scales shifted to the formal purple of academic conclusion. The greatest military force in the galaxy, changed forever by a species that turns its fears into weapons. The hologram displayed one final image, a human child comforting a wounded galactic soldier after a planetary evacuation. The supreme irony, cadets, is that these same humans who terrify our warriors, they're also the first to offer aid to their defeated enemies. The same psychological adaptability that makes them lethal warriors also makes them capable of extraordinary compassion. Thorax's final slide showed the official strategic recommendation to the Galactic High Command: humans make better allies than enemies. Remember this lesson well. Because the only thing more dangerous than a human who's fighting against you, the commander's scales flickered with dark humor, is a human who's fighting for you. Class dismissed. The lights came up as the cadets filed out, each lost in thought about a species that had mastered the art of weaponizing their own fears, yet chose to heal their enemies. Behind them, the hologram lingered on a final data point. Human neural patterns during acts of warfare were identical to those during acts of self-sacrifice.